Welcome to another exciting story from Silent Tears TV. Get your popcorn ready and ride with us.
Oh my God, wait. Do the prayer thing again. Say it like you did this morning.
I wasn't performing, my dear. I was praying.
Praying for what though? For your face to change overnight?
No, for this building, for everybody standing in it, even.
They called her too ugly to be seen in the building. They had no idea who she was. Her name was Grace Adeyemi, 52 years old, a cleaner at Meridian Global Holdings, one of the biggest companies in the city. Her uniform was faded from years of washing. Her hands were rough from years of scrubbing floors other people walked on without looking down. And her face, the face everyone in that building loved to talk about, had lines that told a story nobody bothered to ask her for. Every morning, before the sun woke up, Grace was already at the gate. The security man, an old man, everyone called Baba Tayo, always shook his head when he saw her. He used to joke that one day the company would make her a director, since she came before anyone else and left after everyone was gone. Grace would only smile and tell him she didn't need a title. She just needed the doors to keep opening for people. What nobody knew was what Grace did in those quiet hours before the office filled up. She wasn't cleaning yet. She was praying. Every single morning, Grace walked into the big conference room where millions of naira in deals were signed, placed her hand flat on the long table, closed her eyes and prayed. Not loudly, not for show, just quietly, the way a mother prays over a sleeping child. She prayed for the company to keep standing. She prayed for the CEO and his family, for good health, for wisdom. She prayed for the workers, even the ones who mocked her, asking that no evil plan would succeed against any of them. Then, without a word to anyone, she picked up her cleaning cart and went to work like nothing had happened. She did this at every desk, at every doorknob, at the elevator buttons, at the directory board in the lobby, reading each department's name under her breath like she was making an appointment with heaven on their behalf. Nobody asked her to do it. Nobody paid her for it. She simply believed the people who laughed at her were still worth covering in prayer. By 9 o'clock that same morning, a top salesman named Tunde was already celebrating. He had just closed an 800 million naira deal, the fourth big contract his team had landed that quarter. His colleagues clapped him on the back. He walked around the office like a king, telling anyone who would listen that success like this only happens to people who are good at what they do. He never noticed the woman quietly wiping the windowsill behind him. He never knew that 4 hours before he made that call, Grace had already prayed over the very phone on his desk. That was how it always worked. The company thrived, the workers took the credit, and the woman behind it all kept mopping floors in silence. But kindness was never something this office gave back easily. During lunch one afternoon, Grace sat alone in the break room, eating quietly from a small plastic container. A group of junior staff walked in, led by Tunde and a young marketing girl named Kemi. The laughter started before they even sat down. Tunde made a joke about her being the office prayer warrior, asking if she could turn plain rice into a testimony. Kemi pulled out her phone to record, asking Grace to make her serious praying face for the camera. The younger staff laughed nervously, unsure whether to join in or look away. Then Tunde said the words that would echo through everything that came after. He told her, without apology, that an international company like Meridian couldn't have someone like her representing its image to visiting clients. The room went quiet. Grace looked up, not angry, not broken. She simply told him that God doesn't hire by image. She reminded him that she had been there 11 years and asked how long his own image would last. She stood up, picked up her tray, and walked out without another word. One person in that building never laughed. His name was Nelson. 31 years old, a project lead known for being sharp, fair, and quiet about it. He had heard the tail end of the mockery from the hallway and caught up with Grace after she left the break room. He told her she didn't have to keep taking that from them. Grace answered that she wasn't taking it, she was simply choosing not to give it back. She explained that bitterness was too expensive and she'd rather spend her strength praying than wasting it on people who would forget her name the moment she left the building. Nelson watched her walk away, something shifting in how he saw her. He didn't know it yet, but that short conversation in the hallway would one day save his own life. 3 weeks later, the complaint reached Human Resources. Tunde and Kemi, along with 2 other staff, stood in front of the HR manager, a woman named Mrs. Bello, insisting it wasn't personal, it was about brand image. They claimed a client had commented on the cleaning staff and that it didn't sit right for an international company to be represented that way. Mrs. Bello knew Grace's record was spotless, 11 years without a single complaint about her work. But rather than defend her, she carried the matter upstairs to the CEO, a busy man named Mr. Adeyanju, who barely looked up from his laptop before approving the change. He told her to simply handle it and give the woman a good reference. Nobody in that meeting stopped to ask what 11 years of unseen labor and quiet prayer might actually be worth.
The day they let her go, Grace didn't argue. Mrs. Bello called her into the office and explained, without meeting her eyes, that it was restructuring. Nothing about her work, just a change of cleaning contractor. Grace listened calmly, nodded, and said she understood. Before she left the room, she said one thing that stayed with Mrs. Bello long after that day. She said the chair doesn't argue with the one removing it. It only hopes it was useful while it stood. She asked Mrs. Bello to tell everyone she said thank you, and reminded her that in 11 years, 3 months, she never once left that building without praying over it. Losing her job wouldn't change that. She walked to the elevator with her head high, but once the doors closed and she was finally alone, the tears she had been holding back all morning finally fell. Nelson caught her crossing the lobby with her bag already packed. He ran to stop her, demanding to know what happened, who authorized it, whether it could be reversed. Grace gently told him not to fight her battle, to save his strength for when his own battle came. She told him it would come. Then she walked out through the glass doors into the daylight, leaving Nelson standing frozen, not yet understanding how true her words would turn out to be. 1 week later, the company started losing. It began quietly. A renewal that should have been automatic suddenly needed 3 follow-up calls. A client who had been loyal for years abruptly went silent. Then, within days, Tunde lost the very deal he had been celebrating just weeks before. The same 800 million naira account, gone to a competitor overnight. Down the hallway, the new cleaning contractor staff moved quickly and carelessly, spraying chemicals near open laptops, rushing through rooms without a second glance. Nobody paused, nobody prayed. It was simply a job to them, nothing more. What had once felt like an unstoppable company began losing contracts it should never have lost. Nobody connected it to the woman who used to arrive before the sun. The losses kept coming, and Mr. Adeyanju finally noticed. 4 major accounts gone in 3 weeks, something the company hadn't experienced in over a decade. Nelson, standing before him with a folder full of numbers, tried carefully to explain that something had left the building that they hadn't realized they needed. The CEO waved him off, refusing to believe in curses or superstition. But even as he dismissed it, doubt had already crept into his face. 2 days later, it was Nelson's turn to lose everything. A major logistics contract he had led for months was pulled without warning, not because of his work, but because leadership had lost confidence in the company as a whole. Nelson thanked the client for the years they'd worked together, hung up the phone, and sat alone in his office, staring at the ceiling, wondering how quickly a career could unravel. 2 days after that call, Nelson stood in the same office where he had once defended a woman nobody else would defend.
This time, it was his own termination letter on the desk. Nelson wandered aimlessly that afternoon, his tie loosened, his mind heavy with everything that had gone wrong. Then he saw her, Grace, buying tomatoes at a small stand, humming quietly to herself like she didn't have a single worry in the world. She greeted him warmly, noticing immediately how tired he looked. She invited him to walk with her, and he told her everything: the lost contract, the firing, the company's slow collapse. She listened without interrupting, letting him empty every ounce of frustration before she said a word. When she finally spoke, she told him something he didn't expect. She said maybe nothing was falling apart at all. Maybe it was simply making room for him. She reminded him that he had spent 11 years building someone else's company. He had the skill and the discipline. What he lacked was the courage to build his own. When he protested that he barely had 2 months of savings, she told him a seed doesn't apologize for not being a tree yet. It only needs to be planted. Her final words that day were simple. Whatever he built next, she told him, let it have a flaw someone can pray over. He started with nothing but a desk in the corner of his apartment. Nelson called his oldest friend, Chidi, and asked him to take a leap of faith with him. Chidi was unimpressed by the small setup and the handwritten sign taped to the wall, but he agreed anyway, joking that if the business failed, he would tell everyone it had been Nelson's idea all along. The first 3 months were brutal. Only 2 clients, late payments, a laptop that crashed during their most important pitch. But Nelson remembered one thing Grace had told him: let it have a flaw someone can pray over. So every single morning, before opening his laptop, he sat in 5 minutes of silence. He didn't know if it counted as real prayer. He only knew it felt like the one thing he could still control.
Slowly, painfully, the small business began to grow. Word spread that Nelson's new company delivered on time, every time, in an industry where delays had become normal. Clients who had grown tired of bigger, careless firms started calling. Within a year, what had started on a bedroom desk had outgrown 2 office spaces, and Nelson found himself standing in front of a real logo, a real team, and a real future. He never forgot who gave him the blueprint for all of it. 1 year later, Nelson got down on one knee in his own office. He told Grace he had thought about this for months, not just that day, and asked her to marry him. Grace was stunned into silence. The first time in the entire story, she had nothing prepared to say. She reminded him of everything the world would say: that she was older than him, that she had nothing, that people had already shown him what they thought of her. Nelson told her the world had already been wrong about her once, and he had watched it happen with his own eyes. He wasn't interested in what the world thought of her. He was interested in what she had done for everyone who never even thanked her for it. Through tears, Grace said yes.
His mother did not take the news well. When Nelson brought the engagement home, his mother, a proud and image-conscious woman, refused to accept it. She called it foolishness, asked what people would say about her son marrying an older cleaner with no money and no family name. Nelson stood his ground, reminding her gently that the same woman she was insulting was the reason he had a company to bring anyone into at all. He told her the world had already said worse things about Grace when she had nothing, and she had still prayed for the very people saying it. He would rather marry someone like that than someone the world approved of for the wrong reasons. His mother said nothing more. She simply refused to attend the wedding 3 months later, a small ceremony with fewer than 30 guests. Grace never asked why she stayed away. She simply added her mother-in-law's name to her morning prayers, the same way she once prayed for the people who mocked her at Meridian. 2 years later, an old name appeared on Nelson's boardroom screen. His company, now thriving, had grown large enough to attract serious partnerships. When a proposal came in from Meridian Global Holdings requesting a distribution partnership, his business partner Chidi could hardly believe it. The same Meridian that had once fired Grace and indirectly fired Nelson too was now one of 3 companies bidding for a chance to work with them. Nelson sat with the file in his hands for a long moment, absorbing the full weight of how far the road had turned.
Meridian's leadership walked into Nelson's headquarters, humbled and hopeful. Mr. Adeyanju, visibly older and more tired than before, arrived with Mrs. Bello for the meeting. Tunde trailed behind them too, no longer the confident top salesman he once was, but a demoted manager sent along to observe, his company's decline having cost him nearly everything he once bragged about. When they entered the boardroom, Nelson stood to greet them. Beside him stood Grace, calm and dignified, introduced simply as part of the leadership team. Mr. Adeyanju froze the moment he recognized her. Grace greeted him gently, without a trace of bitterness, and told him it had been a while. Tunde could not bring himself to look at her. Mrs. Bello stared at the floor, clearly ashamed. Mr. Adeyanju admitted, humbled, that he had never known who she truly was. Grace simply told him he never needed to know. She hadn't been praying for credit.